Watch to see how I transform this boring IKEA shoe cabinet into this custom looking furniture with pole wrap. Plus, curved furniture is really trendy. We'll keep all the organization and functionality, but make it look so much better. In this video, you'll find the easiest way to cut pole wrap, how I attached it to the drawer fronts, and then how to make that really cool curved furniture shape. This is a pretty easy beginner level project. Let's go! I love the functionality of this shoe cabinet, but it has zero design. I'm really inspired to try pole wrap around these curved edges like Lone Fox did. This is just gorgeous. Pole wrap comes in these really long 8-feet sheets, but it also comes in different widths, and it's kind of hard to cut, but my best method to cut it is to use a miter saw and to fold it in half and cut on that line. Also, make sure that you use a piece of painter's tape exactly where you're going to make your cut. This is going to prevent a lot of splitting with the wood and it just makes for a much better cut. Attaching the pole wrap to the drawer fronts is really easy. I just used a good heaping amount of wood glue and then I glued it on top. And I took my pin nailer and nailed in just a few spots because I wanted to make sure this was really secure. I used 3/4 inch pin nails to make sure that it wouldn't go through the actual drawer fronts. It's really easy to cut each slat off. You just use an X-Acto knife and slice it through the middle. If you have any rough edges, just sand them down using P220 grit sandpaper. Next, we have to make the piece of furniture look curved, so I'm using this tutorial from Lone Fox. I'm really inspired by his bookshelf that he made, so I'm going to cut these semi-circle rounds, and I first need to measure to make sure we have the correct width, and then I just approximately drew a half circle just based on the size, and I wanted to use my pole wrap to make sure that it would actually fit because my pole wrap is only 16 inches long, so the semicircle can't actually be wider than that. I was confident with that. I got a piece of yarn and I drew a more perfected semicircle, and this is just when you kind of like hold the middle of the piece of yarn and then you put a pencil on the other side and you loop it around. After I cut out the semicircle, it's time to transfer this template onto all my different pieces of wood to cut that semicircle out of wood. So I clamped down my piece of wood and I used my jigsaw to start cutting these. Now make sure you use a fine tooth blade. I cannot stress this enough. A fine tooth blade will give you so much more control, especially when you're going around that curve. It only costs a couple more dollars to get that pack of blades, and it's so worth the precise cut that you're gonna get. So I went ahead and I cut 6 semicircles. I'm going to do 3 on each side of the cabinet. I'll attach one at the top, one at the middle, and one at the bottom. Now let's attach these semicircles to the dresser. I'm going to use these little L brackets. They're super cute. And we're just going to drill a pilot hole and attach them to the semicircles first. And then once they're on the semicircle, then we can go ahead and attach them to the cabinet. You'll notice that I'm using pilot holes first. I always like to use pilot holes to prevent any splitting of the wood, especially when you're working on furniture. You just don't want to break it. Here's a little mistake I made. I forgot to use a level to make sure that they were going on straight, so I had to readjust a few of them. Because I want this to look like a real wood furniture piece, I need to cover any of the white pieces on this piece of furniture with the pole wrap. So I'm just cutting down these really, really thin strips, and then I'm using the same method of glue. I think more than anything else, I was psyching myself out that it'd be really hard to cut these skinny pieces, but it wasn't, and they came out really nicely. Using the miter saw is definitely my favorite way to cut the pole wrap because you get the least number of splinters. It is the easiest tool to use, and it is the fastest as well. So now we just gotta glue these all on. If you're loving this project so far, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I've got so many more budget-friendly DIYs and IKEA hacks too. Then I added the pin nails just to reinforce them to make sure that they wouldn't fall off. The reason I'm using a pin nailer, not a brad nailer, is because the pin nails actually don't even leave a hole behind. The nails are so tiny, so there's nothing to fill. So this is going to be the top of my cabinet, and the reason why I need it to be rounded is that it matches with the sides of the cabinet. Otherwise, I think a rectangular top would look kind of strange with the rounded sides. And now I'm just going to use my jigsaw to cut this out. The edge definitely needs some sanding, so I'll use P220 grit sandpaper just to smooth it out. You see how I'm using plywood? Plywood is actually strips of wood that is glued together, so it has a really ugly edge. You can use edge banding to cover that up, and it's so easy to use because you just need iron. Now, I hate ironing, but this is the type of ironing I can definitely get behind. Do you even remember what this looks like? It looks like a real piece of wood. Doesn't even look like plywood. I can never get these little IKEA wooden dowels out, so I just cut them off with my multi-tool. Now to attach it to the cabinet. It looks so good already. I'm adding some wood glue, and then I need to make sure that it's centered. So I'm going to use my brad nailer and 1 1/4 inch nails to just nail this in. I already used the wood glue, but this is like extra security. We're right in the home stretch of finishing this off. I'm going to open up a new package of pull wrap, and this is where I actually get to wrap the sides of the pull wrap, and you get to see this really beautiful piece of furniture. Are you ready? I'm so excited because this pull wrap looks absolutely stunning around these curved edges. I'm again using my pin nailer and nailing it onto those half moons. So now you can really see the point of them. The point of those half moons is to support the pull wrap as you nail it around it. I mean, doesn't that look amazing? Like, come on guys, come on. Today's the day, friends. It looks so good already that I'm actually really nervous about staining it. And by the way, if you don't drink sparkling water, don't start because it's so addictive. So yeah, wood condition, stain, and we're basically done. Like, I can't believe this is gonna be done. I know it's tempting to just jump right in and stain your wood, but do not skip this step. This will prevent your stain from going on blotchy. It makes the stain go on so beautifully, and it just helps the wood absorb it much more better than if you were to just jump right in and stain it. I have 3 different stains here. I have special walnut, dark walnut, and I bought this provincial. So I'm just gonna test it on some of the scrap holes we have for the pull wrap, and then we'll figure out which one we like. I know that I don't want to go with like a very dark, I actually really like this color, so I don't want to go with anything too dark or too bright, so I'm hoping that one of these 3 will match. I've worked so hard in this cabinet that I'm not just gonna jump in and stain it. That would just maybe ruin the cabinet, so I'm gonna go ahead and test out all these different stains, and then we can decide after we look at all of them. I was so nervous about this color, I ended up picking special walnut, but I really had to build up my courage to stain it, because what if I stained it and I hated the color? It's not like I could stain it back, I would just have to paint it, and I really want this to be a wood cabinet, but I really love how this color is coming through. It's not too dark, and it's not too yellowish. I think it has the perfect undertones for this space. Phew, now it's time to stain the cabinet. But first, I'm actually going to use this contact paper that I got at the dollar store to wrap the legs around. It's actually a really close match to the special walnut, and they're really small legs, so I don't think anyone's even going to be able to tell that these are like a sticker. Now I just gotta finish staining the entire cabinet. I honestly can't believe how different this looks. I think if someone saw this and I told them that it was an IKEA cabinet at one time, they would not even believe me. We're finally staining the last piece of wood, and I can't believe we're almost done. It's actually not a hard project at all. It's just a lot of small steps, but I think even a beginner could do this. We're almost at the last step. I'm going to be attaching these matte black handles, they're like poles, to just the top of these. So I just gotta measure and attach them to the center point, and then we can get the entire cabinet set up. Yay! Obviously make sure to measure it and make sure it's gonna be centered. Now I'm gonna use my drill and drill a pilot hole first. Remember, we've worked so hard on this. There is no point in rushing it now and going at it with a screw. Do the pilot hole and then screw it in. I can see these white gaps a little bit more than I would like to. So I'm gonna go in with that same contact paper that I used on the legs and just cover it up. And I think that's like gonna hold and it'll be good enough. Are you ready for the reveal? Do you remember how plain this IKEA Hemnes shoe cabinet was when I first started? Let's see how it turned out. I made this. Here it is. The pull wrap completely transformed this piece of IKEA furniture. Spent about $200 on this IKEA hack, and I totally think it's worth it. It looks like something from Studio McGee that you would buy from a catalog. Honestly, when I look at this, I can't even believe it's IKEA, but it's got that organization and that functionality that we all love from IKEA. And adding that little banding of the contact paper on the edges just takes it the extra mile. The only thing I would do differently if I did this again was to buy the black-brown cabinet instead of the white one, because that would conceal some of those edges a lot better. If you're scratching your head and you're like, wait, that's IKEA, well, I think that this flip is totally a success. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because there's so many great IKEA flips and budget hacks that I'm going to be doing. I'll see you next time.